What's going on, guys? My name is Wade with TechDaily, and in this video, we will be unboxing the brand new iPhone 14 Pro. And the one I have here is in the new deep purple color, a brand new fit and finish, which I'm excited to check out. I've heard some mixed reviews on the color, but we'll have a look ourselves and see. Now, unlike the past couple new iPhones, this iPhone 14 Pro does offer a number of new things, including a new, I guess you could call it a selfie camera area. No more notch per se. It's what Apple calls the dynamic island, an area around the selfie camera that's sort of a new way to see and interact with apps and notifications and a number of other things. There's definitely a lot to go over here, but first things first, let's just quickly unbox this thing so I can show you what comes inside the package. Nowadays, there's not much. Sliding off the lid of the box, the first thing we get is the phone itself, and right off the bat, I have to say this color is very interesting. It's super dark. You don't really get the purple tone unless it's in like direct light. Not exactly what I was expecting, but we'll take a closer look at it in just a second. As far as your included accessories, you get just a Lightning to USB-C cable and a small stack of paperwork and instructions along with that iconic Apple sticker. So with all that stuff out of the way, here is the new deep purple iPhone 14 Pro once again. And as soon as you power this phone on and set it up, you definitely notice that new notch or camera cutout area up top. The iPhone has looked the same for a number of years now, and as weird as it sounds, this is definitely different. And here in the US, the iPhone now also has ditched the SIM card. So when you go to set up the phone, you have a new step that helps you migrate over to an eSIM with your carrier provider. This was also a somewhat controversial move, and I'm interested to hear how setup went for you guys. If you had to do a new eSIM for maybe the first time, let me know how it went. Now, as far as pricing and availability, the iPhone 14 Pro once again starts at $999, at least here in the States. And for that price, you get 128 gigs of built-in storage. The iPhone 14 Pro Max is $100 more at $1099. They each can be configured with 128, 256, 512 gigs, or 1 terabyte of storage, depending on how much space you need and how much you want to pay. And if you're looking for the best deals on the new iPhone 14s right now, or any other smartphone really, I'd highly recommend checking out this video's sponsor, Navi, which is one of the best resources available for scouting out deals and discounts, not just on smartphones, but on carrier plans as well. Their phone navigator service scans thousands of different promotions and finds you the best price for the smartphone you want. You can search for one device in particular, like the new iPhone 14 Pro for example, or if you aren't sure what phone to buy, you can take a short quiz, pick what options and features you like having, and Navi will recommend a few different smartphone options that fit your preferences. When you've decided on a phone, Navi will show you the best prices currently available for that device from the major carriers and retailers. You can see carrier deals both as an existing customer or if you're willing to switch. And if you find a deal you like, Navi will take you right to it without having to do any more searching. If you don't see anything that entices you now, Navi can notify you at a later date when prices go down or if a better deal pops up. Navi is totally free to use and honestly is one of the best tools I have found to help save you money on your smartphone purchase. Check it out at yournavi.com or click the link in the video description below to give it a try, and thanks so much again to Navi for sponsoring this video. So physically, the new iPhone 14 Pro kind of sort of looks like the old iPhone 13 Pro, but there are a couple of design cues that set it apart and force you to get a new case too, unfortunately. At 6.1 inches, it's the exact same size as last year, of course, and even the width, thickness, and weight are close. Everything else for the most part on the phone itself is the same power and volume buttons, same lightning port and speaker setup, same stainless steel frame, all polished and shiny. Jumping back to that deep purple color though, this to me is definitely not as purple as maybe I was expecting, and without any direct light, it's quite dark to say the least. The matte glass back almost has to be under a lamp or pointed at the sun for it to really be purple, but it's an interesting finish and I'm glad to see Apple continuing to offer something new each year. I should also mention around back that the camera module and lenses are a tiny bit larger across the board as well. It's sort of hard to tell, but the camera area is wider, each lens is bigger, and that means if you have a precision cut iPhone 13 Pro case, it likely won't fit on this new iPhone 14 Pro. Obviously, the biggest visual difference with the iPhone 14 Pro is the redesigned notch or selfie camera cutout, so let's talk about it. If it were just a camera cutout itself, this would be different enough, I think. Side by side with the iPhone 13 Pro, you can see it's smaller, slimmer, all the Face ID sensors and selfie camera stuff is still there, but it's not just a redesign, it's a new functional area. So tapping on the little black pill-shaped module gives you a bit of feedback and it kind of wiggles, I guess, and depending on the app you're using, that area can display all kinds of information, and you can then interact with it too. So for example, if you set a timer and then go back into the home screen or jump to any other app, the timer will still be shown in that new dynamic island area. Tapping on it will bring you back into the app, long pressing on it will give you some quick options for pausing or resuming the timer, and this dynamic island setup is available for a number of different apps. Apple Maps, for example, has a dynamic island widget that shows directions. Any music app like Apple Music or even a sound or video from Safari will also show up on the dynamic island as well, and you can quickly play and pause whatever you're listening to. And the dynamic island is also sort of a new notification area. So texts, phone calls, messages, even the silent ringer notification are all shown now in that dynamic island. I suspect eventually all third-party apps will utilize the dynamic island in some way. It's honestly a really interesting way to display information. You can have a couple of things going on in there at once. It takes some getting used to. I think you're going to have to sort of jump from app to app to figure out which ones have a dynamic island widget, but this is one of the most unique ways in which any phone company has utilized the camera cutout or notch area, and I'm interested to see just how useful it may be in day-to-day usage. The display itself on the new iPhone 14 Pro has also been updated a bit. It's brighter now, particularly outdoors in direct sunlight. You can expect up to 2000 nits of max brightness with the outdoor brightness boosts. It's now an LTPO Super Retina XDR OLED panel. A lot of letters there, but it's the bold, colorful, super fluid 120Hz display we had on the 13 Pro, just now quite a bit brighter, which is great because I always found myself struggling to see my iPhone at times in direct sunlight, especially here in Las Vegas. We never seem to have a cloudy day. Inside, the new iPhone is once again powered by a new Apple chipset. This year, it's the A16 Bionic processor, still paired with 6 gigs of RAM. And while Apple says this new processor is some percentage faster and more powerful than last year, I doubt most people will experience a noticeable difference. The last probably 2 or 3 iPhones to me have all felt plenty fast, and to be totally honest, I feel like we've been maxing out how fast and how powerful these phones can really be. It's great that Apple is still innovating with better and better processors, but on a phone like this, even with the most intense apps and games, I don't think you're going to have any extreme benefit with this new phone versus last year, or even a 12 Pro for that matter, but that's just my opinion. Of course, this phone also ships with the latest iOS 16 software update, which offers a myriad of new features. The custom lock screen is a personal favorite of mine, but iOS 16 is also available across the board on most current iOS devices. So if you want to hold off on the new iPhone 14 for a while, updating your current phone to this new OS is a great way to still get some of those new features and make your current phone feel like it's kind of new. When it comes to the battery and charging, this iPhone 14 Pro technically has a tiny bit larger of battery crammed inside it versus last year's 13 Pro, but at 3200 milliamps, it's still small by today's standards. Its capacity doesn't tell the whole story though. Apple says this year's iPhone should last at least 1 to 2 hours longer versus last year, which is great. Battery life and longevity to me are one of the most important aspects of any phone, and as long as Apple is improving that, that's all we could really ask for. However, the charging speeds and charging standards haven't really changed much. This phone still only supports around 20 watts wired, 15 watts wireless with MagSafe, and 7.5 watts for everything else wireless, which, considering the competition, isn't particularly quick or powerful. For whatever reason, Apple seems relatively uninterested in pushing the boundaries for charging speeds. Finally, year over year, the biggest changes to the iPhones seem to have been in the camera department, and this year is no different, especially with the iPhone 14 Pro. Those big new lenses around back pack some brand new hardware, including now a 48 megapixel main lens with a number of new capabilities. There's a 12 megapixel telephoto lens as well, and a 12 megapixel ultra-wide lens. The selfie camera was also improved. It's a 12 megapixel shooter with a better f1.9 aperture, which lets in a ton more light. And inside the camera app, you'll now see additional presets for ultra-wide, 2x and 3x zoom, 2x and 3x zoom for portraits, all utilizing the new camera hardware in different ways. And in real-world use, use, Apple says the new iPhone 14 Pro should do even better, particularly in low light and with nighttime shots. Now, I'm obviously going to put that to the test in my camera comparisons and full review, but even with a couple of quick sample shots out of the box here, I can see the iPhone 14 Pro does produce a brighter shot compared to the 13 Pro, and there's quite a bit more detail in each image as well. It's really surprising to me that year after year, Apple continues to improve the camera in noticeable ways, and this year, once again, I think shows why the iPhone is a top 3 camera smartphone, and I'm really excited to see just how good this new camera setup is. All in all, while the new iPhone 14 Pro is no doubt the same familiar iPhone we've come to know and love, it's also the first departure from the iPhone X design we've had for years. As strange as it sounds, the new dynamic island is not just a design change, but a new way to interact with apps, notifications, and more. It's functionally different. Pair that with a brighter screen, improved camera tech, longer battery life, and a purple-ish color, and I think there's probably enough here to justify an upgrade. But what do you guys think? Is the iPhone 14 Pro worth it? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, of course. And also let me know what you think of this deep purple color. I'm sort of mixed about it, to be honest, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, be sure to follow TechDaily on Twitter and subscribe to the TechDaily YouTube channel if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys later.